Welcome to GLOBEWATCH with me, Charles Ebunem. Our planet is a bundle of cultures and languages in particular, but in a world where there is the law of osmosis, some dominate others in the threshold of dominance. Such has been the case with the English language, French, Spanish, and Italian, which over the centuries have dominated the communication threshold. Today, across the world, with the increasing Chinese economic manpower and industrial prowess, it becomes extremely difficult to do without China, simply meaning doing without the Chinese language. At times, I'm unable to manipulate my phone because I am yet to learn Chinese, since most of the instructions are in the Chinese language. Can we decode the meaning behind the learning of the Chinese language across the world today? Professor Guoyang from Zhejiang Normal University in China. Welcome to GLOBEWATCH.
Thank you very much, and very happy to attend this program today.
Mao Zedong, Chao Mao, Chu Enlai,
Zhu Enlai,
Chiang Kai-shek, and Deng Xiaoping are some of the best known Chinese personalities across the world. But the agency responsible for spreading Chinese soft power worldwide is simply codenamed Confucius Institute. Why?
I think so. Okay, so all the names you just mentioned, so they are really the very famous personalities around the world from China, in China. But I think, in fact, in terms of education or culture, in fact, there's still a lot of very important or famous personalities in history. And I think Confucius is just one of the representative and in China history, right? And in fact, he was the first, the greatest educator, just the first, right? And philosopher and a thinker, and who started his school education, so about 2,000 years ago. So I think he is just a representative.
You know, top Communist Party officials of the past century denounced Confucius as a personification of a feudal system, which the Chinese communist system is not comfortable with. Can you unveil to me the U-turning factor for the current Chinese communist leaders to take Confucius as the trademark of Chinese civilization in the 21st century?
I think it's a very effective and a very important way to make yourself known to the world. I think it is not only in economy, right? In trade, that you should make yourself known to the other. I think we should make ourselves known all the aspects, so known to the world. And at the same time, I think this is a very important part of international exchange and cooperation in terms of education.
Just listening to what one person has said about Confucius, those who enjoy more brand names will enjoy high popularity, reputation, or more social influence, and will therefore be able to generate more support from local communities. When you look at the numbers of those who study the Chinese language today worldwide, has the name of Confucius paid off well?
I think the number of Confucius Institute has grown rapidly. And you know, very important act that she put it that the Confucius is established between the two countries, two universities, right? One in China and one in the foreign country, and based on the modality to introduce Chinese language. I think it has proved to be a great success. It has encouraged the cooperation and exchange between the host universities, right, and the partner institutions, so between the two countries at least. And then there's a growing you see the number of the Chinese learners around the world. So far, about 475 Confucius Institute in the world. In fact, this is a similar like the Institute of German, like Goethe, right? And also there's an institute like British Council, and also like some other institutions.
So you just mentioned Alliance Française. You just mentioned the Goethe Institute. You just mentioned the British Council, which of course spread their cultures in various domains across the world. But the difference between those institutions and the Confucius Institute is that in the Confucius Institute, you deal directly with the universities of the countries where you are established, whereas others don't practice such a partnership. Why did you choose such a strategy?
So that's quite different, and you know, yes, that's right. In terms of management or organization, it is different from some other the organizations, institutes like British Council and some others. But I think, okay, why? Because you know, once the Confucius directly established in the universities or in the secondary schools or some other schools, so I think the students can have the best access to learning, to teaching resources, right? To learning Chinese. So and you know, I don't think there is any special strategy. You know, education should be school based, right? Should be school based. It's not a training, not only the training center for Chinese language.
The Confucius Institute is like a global empire, if you like to put it that way, because it has structures about 100 million people have been learning Chinese language worldwide. That is a tremendous success over the past few years. This is an institution which is placed under the Chinese Ministry of Education. How is this empire managed back in China?
I think now the management is affiliated to not directly by the Ministry of Education, but affiliated to the Ministry of Education. So I think this has proved to be a great success in the past 10 years.
This is a market which has been dominated by the learning of English, by the learning of French, and by the learning of Spanish. When you look at these foreign languages and you compare with yours, where do you place yourself? The best in terms of numbers? Have you had encouraging figures of people learning, Cameroonians learning Chinese?
Okay, I think it is far from being, you say, an ideal. I think it's just like now it's just about for a year. Probably one of the best in Africa, but I think among all there's no competitive edge now to the other language. It depends on no one is forced to learn Chinese. Depends on the necessity, on the you say the demand of people, right, who are going to learn Chinese language here. So only about 10,000. I think there are many more are learning German, Italian, or Arabic, or Arabic. So I don't care about this. I just, since we are here, we will see whether there is any need, and there is any demand for learning Chinese. Once there is a strong need, a growing demand for that, so okay, so we can provide the better support or big support.
Clearly tell me, why should my child learn Chinese?
There's no why. It depends on you. So if you think, okay, there is some prospect and then you have bigger vision, right? So you can choose to learn Chinese. And no one will force you to learn any language here. So the best thing here is we offer an option for you or alternative for you, and you decide whether you want to learn it or not. No one will push you to learn any language, or especially Chinese.
And you know that option, according to some of your detractors, will tell you that you want to buy the American market. I should tell our audience that one of the largest areas where you are established is in the United States of America, that you want to buy the French market when you look at the way the Goethe Institute is established in France. So when you hear all of those comments, how do you take them? We know that you guys are in a great economic competition and you want to use soft power like the Americans, because whether China does not like the United States of America, the truth is that the Chinese end up consuming Michael Jackson's music.
Okay, so I think just like American culture is very popular, Western culture is very popular, like in China, is well received there in China, right? And why not so make Chinese culture known to the world? I think it's something very natural. So there's no competition. I think there's no thing such like I don't agree with you the term like market or business. It's not a business.
There is no political motive in all of this.
No, so just take everything natural. So let everything.
Do you confirm
take
to
its
me that
course.
there is no hidden agenda of learning Chinese language? There is no political intention in all of this?
I think education has nothing to do with politics so far as I understand. Just like I told you, okay, so I started to learn English so since I was 11 or 12 something, 30 years ago. Do you think there's any politics in my learning English, in my learning French? Okay, no, nothing at all. The only purpose is to broaden my vision, to learn another culture, to learn Western culture, to learn French culture, to learn English culture. Do you think is there any politics? No.
Okay, you just said that there is nothing about politics, but just listen to what Li Changchong, who is the fifth ranking member of the Politburo Standing Committee of the Chinese Communist Party, was quoted in The Economist saying that the Confucius Institute were, quote, an important part of China's overseas propaganda setup.
It's something like so from the top level. So to me, to ordinary people, right? Learning a language, it's the same like Chinese people learning English, learning French, learning German. You can find any language in China, even like Jose or even like Swahili, right? So you can find people. Some of my friends can learn that. So you cannot put too much, you say, interpretation on that from the perspective of common people, of ordinary people. But in terms of the government,
this is the top brass of the Chinese decision-making process, saying that it is just one of their subsidiary ways to govern the world.
For ordinary people to discuss about that, I think it's a little bit exaggerated. Just like a British Council. Okay, so do you have any political purpose in setting up a British Council in China? So there are many British Council or German, you say, okay, Goethe Institute, so you can find it. And also, Confucius Institute headquarters.
But you know the way these institutions are received in countries like Russia. The British Council at one moment was banned that it had a secret agenda.
It's a very simple one. It's just an exchange, a platform for people for people from different countries to exchange, to cooperate, and exactly in terms of education. And for people, we provided the chances for people to learn Chinese. And you know, with the development of China, I think there's a lot for the world to learn about China, about the Chinese culture, about Chinese education, about the China's, you say, development and progress in terms of, you say, the different aspects. I think all aspects.
Okay, the Chinese language taught worldwide, or the Mandarin taught worldwide, is a simplified version used by Peking or Beijing. Why has the government taken an option not to accept Mandarin spoken and written in Hong Kong and Taiwan, but the simplified version? Why the simplified version?
No, so I think because, you know, mainland China and Taiwan.
Because even in the UK, when you go to
we mostly use the same system.
Because even in the UK, when you go to countries like Ireland, it is ancient English that is spoken, which is quite different from the one spoken by Buckingham Palace and 10 Downing Street and taught worldwide.
Basically, so the Mandarin, if you are referring Mandarin, so it's almost the same, but just like British English and American English, there's some difference. So probably just that difference. The similar distance exists between the Mandarin, between the Chinese, like used in mainland China, in Taiwan or in Hong Kong. So there's, okay, you don't have to make a fuss over that. I think it's not a problem. And now we are, I think, because, you know, for better you educate or to reduce illiteracy Chinese, so since after the founding of the People's Republic of China, there's a process of simplification of writing. But in terms of other aspects of pronunciation, almost the same. So we have simplified characters and also the original characters. So like you mostly used in Taiwan, right? So there's nothing difference, but the similar pronunciation. So it's okay.
If I want to study the Chinese language today, my phone has a lot of Chinese characters. At one moment, I get lost using the telephone. That would just be one of the most complicated elements of the 21st century, because you are increasingly becoming an unbeatable industrial power. If I want to study the Chinese language, or my child, or whosoever want to study the Chinese language, what do I need? What is the process?
Okay, so now Chinese has two different systems. Writing systems and speaking systems are different, because Chinese language is a pictographic language, right? It's not like alphabetical language like English, British, like English or German or Latin language, right? So we were there's also, but learning any language, you have to follow certain rule or law or a rule. Right, law of language. So starting from like
the Chinese grammar, the grammar and the lexics.
Yeah, letters and the letters. So in fact, we have like HSK level, HSK test from level 1 to level 6. So our Chinese teachers start to learn like the pronunciation, like level 1 or level 2, focusing on pronunciation. After level 2, they will try to start to teach like writing. Right? So teaching writing, but you still can speak, right? So with the help of the letters.
You network with the University of Yaoundé too, and many others here in Cameroon, for example.
Yes.
How long can it take me to speak a kind of manageable Chinese language?
Okay, very good news now, just coming to me yesterday or the day before yesterday. The champion of Chinese bridge competition, of Chinese proficiency competition, right, of Cameroon finals, named Samuel flew Assange. So he represents Cameroon to compete with the global competitors from about 100 countries, like in China. So just 2 days ago, I received the news. He got the first prize among top 10 in the world. And
of those who speak and write Chinese?
Yeah, who have just learned the Chinese for 1 year or 2. And he just learned.
What I want to know is that, do I need 2 years, 1 year, 6 months, or whatsoever, as a secondary speaker to learn the Chinese language?
This is the very typical example. He learned the Chinese for about 10 months. For 1 year, he started to learn the Chinese in early 2014. So it depends on how much time you put in learning Chinese every day and how hard you are going to study. So I think around 1 year something, if you can follow the schedule 2 times or 3 times a week for 1 year, I think there's no problem for you to speak and to communicate, no problem. And okay, if you study a little bit harder, I think within like 2 years, you can write something, you can speak with anyone, no problem. And also you can apply for the scholarships to study like in China, no problem. It's very easy to learn to speak, but a little bit hard to learn to write, because it follows another system. But anyway, in writing, you can follow the certain rules of writing.
Let me just go back a bit to all the uncertainties involving the Chinese language today. Marsha Shellings from Chicago University, where you used to network in the United States of America, one professor says that teaching simplified characters denies students access to, quote, traditional characters in which everything was written in China for thousands of years, and in which much that is not to the liking of the regime continues to be written in Taiwan and Hong Kong. They believe that in terms of education freedom, for example, in the United States of America, that the fact that the Chinese mainland China doesn't want people to learn a traditional Chinese language means that there is top information in the traditional characters which you don't want to put in the market, or in other words, it's a system of coding the message.
You mean traditional language? Chinese people?
Yeah.
So
the Chinese
are not allowed to learn traditional?
The Chinese government doesn't want people to learn traditional Chinese language
characters
because it enables them to remain in a world of secrecy where information is coded, and that helps them in the espionage system. Is that correct?
I have no idea about this, but I think, okay.
But you are a professor of the Chinese language. When you hear such comments like that, do they have
they
right
should have a better understanding of the language system of what is going on in China and go there to have a look. I think a lot of things have been twisted and so sometimes exaggerated. It's just like what you said.
Do you have the impression that education is politicized at the global level today?
So I ask you, so how about the English learning in Chinese? If you think there is a politics, okay, I admit there is something, some also some politics in learning Chinese here in Cameroon. Okay. If you can answer me that question. So you can find any language almost in the world, even including Hebrew. So do you think isn't there any politics? So when you're learning language, when you're studying, I think, okay, forget anything about politics. So just forget that. And so far, I think on the top level, I really appreciate what I have experienced here. So top officials here, they have very great vision in introducing Chinese languages. Even the universities like Yaoundé 2, Yaoundé 1, right?
Well, any world planner, somebody who has a vision like Confucius, we think of teaching the Chinese language today because economically you are the future of the world.
So just
does economic calculus play well on teaching the Chinese language today?
Yeah, sure. I think it seems it's emerging economy, right? In the world, there's something for the people all around the world to learn something from China. And why Chinese people learning English, learning French? Because the Chinese people are very open to the outside world, and they think there's a lot of things for Chinese people to learn from. So language is just something like a tool. Do you know? So I remember Mandela said, Mandela, the hero of Africa, of the whole human. So if you can talk to a person in the language he knows, that goes into his mind. If you talk to a person in his language, that goes into his heart. Do you know what does this mean? So if you want to have very good communication, if you want to communicate or exchange with Chinese people, so if you can speak Chinese, you will be better acceptable by that group of people.
Final thought.
It's the same.
Final thought. A series of Western nations have taken the measures or the decisions of closing Chinese or the Confucius Institute. We have today currently about 1,000 Confucius Institute. When you see the way the United States of America and many countries are closing Chinese Confucius Institute, what does the future look like? You come to Africa where the market is larger?
Okay, since there's establishment, there's closing down, it's very natural something. Because if you both, like I said, so Confucius Institute, so will be co-established by the two universities. If the two universities cannot reach the agreement concerning the running of the Confucius Institute in the school on campus, okay, they can close down. Since they can open, why not they cannot close down? So too many people now, okay, focusing on closing down instead of on opening up, right? So it's the same thing. So just like a people, sometimes you got sick, sometimes you're well enough, right? If you're gonna cancer, okay, why not remove it? Okay. But I think the most important thing
is... You are using biological metaphors to explain that situation.
But not exactly correct.
Absolutely.
So, but not exactly correct. But I mean, so people focusing too much on that. And I think it's something very natural. You don't have to make a fuss over that. Because I think a lot of people holding there's something wrong, like probably I learned something. Someone said Confucius is interviewing the freedom of academic research or whatever. I think it's a bullshit. So you can, if you want to have a better understanding, okay, go to the Confucius Institute and study there for some time and to see how it operates, how it goes. Then you can make the decision.
Professor Guoyang from Zhejiang University, which is of course a coastal region in China. Thanks very much for accepting our invitation on GlobeWatch.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so it's a good talk.
How do you say bye-bye in Chinese?
再见.
Pardon?
再见.
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 Okay.
Okay, it's better. Welcome back.
Okay.